Hey, it is Rachel Bailey, and I have a question for you. Are you a parent who gets really frustrated when you are trying to get out of the house in the morning or you have to be somewhere and your kids don't move as quickly as you'd like them to? I want to tell you something. I'm a parent whose superpower is really understanding my kids' behavior and turning their behavior around. It's really about getting into their shoes and understand why they're doing what they're doing. But here's what I will say. When I'm rushing to get out of the house, when I have places I need to be, I don't really care about getting into their shoes. I don't care about their perspective. I just want them to move a little more quickly. So if you are a parent who's really frustrated and stressed in the mornings when your kids aren't going as quickly as they need to, know that you are not alone. So what I want to do is, especially because as I'm recording, school is right around the corner or may have even started for some of you, I want to share some tips that will really help the morning routine go better. And the first tip is one you probably heard before, but it's worth repeating because it's super important. And that is to do as much as you can the night before. Make sure you're packing lunches and doing snacks the night before if you can. Also getting outfits ready. If possible, build this into your evening routine so it gets out of your morning routine. The second tip I have for you is to actually wake your kids up 5, 6, 7 minutes earlier than you normally would. And I know immediately parents are like, wait, wake them up earlier. I mean, I need them to sleep as late as they can because they're so tired. But here's what you need to know is that kids actually need time to transition from a sleep state to an awake and alert state so they can move quickly enough to do what you ask them to do. A lot of us let our kids sleep in, and then when we rush them, they literally aren't in a place where they can rush, and they may either act out and create fights, which take longer, or they actually slow down because that's their stress response. They're stressed out because you're rushing them, and they may slow down. Either way, they're slowing down or becoming disrespectful and cranky. That will slow down your morning. And I will tell you that the 5 or 6 minutes of sleep that they're losing is actually not as important as giving them time to transition so they can be awake and alert. The next tip I have for you is to be realistic about the fact that kids actually do need help staying on track. I know that your kids are probably physically able of getting dressed and brushing their teeth and getting their breakfast. They may be physically able to do that, but they are not cognitively able, even if you have a student who's in middle or even high school. Because here's the thing, kids and adolescents are wired for stimulation and engagement. So if they're doing tasks that they do day in and day out, they're doing these routines, which are really important to have. What happens as they're doing these routines is their brains are actually seeking stimulation. So they may start to get dressed, but then they get distracted by a toy on the floor or by their own thoughts about what their friends are going to be doing at the lunch table. And those distractions slow them down. They may even get distracted as they're eating breakfast or they're seeking engagement as they're eating breakfast, so they start to bother their brother or sister. That's because, again, they're wired for stimulation, they're wired for novelty, they're wired for engagement, and bothering their brother or sister is meeting that need. But it also slows things down. So be realistic that they do need help staying on track. So one of the biggest suggestions I have is not to try to get ready yourself the same time that your kids are getting ready in the morning. Try to get yourself ready ahead of time. Or if realistically you just can't do that, make sure you're setting other alarms and you're actually getting kids involved in this process, other alarms that are external cues that keep them on track. Whether it's setting an Alexa alarm or even a stopwatch, anything like that, you're not timing them. You're just setting reminders to make sure that they are not distracted and that they're staying on task. Again, ideally, this is you helping them stay on task, but helping them find other systems can also empower them to get through what they need to do without relying on you. The last tip I have for you is to expect that some mornings just aren't going to go well. Some mornings just stink and people are going to say nasty things and it's just not going to go well. And instead of getting upset with yourself, like I said, expect this. And it's interesting that when you take the pressure off of yourself and you sort of expect that things aren't always going to go well, that can really help you stress out less. But even when those mornings do inevitably go wrong, use that as an opportunity to talk about mistakes and solutions. So if you have a really bad day, or I should say when you have a bad day, when you get home that evening or sometimes shortly after, Talk about the mistakes you made. You can apologize for it and say, hey, remember when I did that? I feel bad about that. I'm sorry about that. You can even, hopefully, when you're acknowledging what you've done wrong, and they're more likely to acknowledge what they've done wrong as well. And then you can talk about solutions. You can say, hey, neither one of us liked how this morning went, so maybe we can talk about ways to make it better. So don't try so hard to always make mornings go well, because they're not. And when they don't, you can use that as an opportunity. So I hope that gives you some ideas for how to improve your kids' behavior and make the morning less stressful. If you want even more tips for getting your kids to listen and improve their behavior, I'm starting live online parenting classes, and you can check out more information about that at rachel-bailey.com/listen more class. And you'll find out information about those live classes. If you have any questions for me and you want to reach out, you can always do so at rachel-bailey.com. I'll see you next time.